I have a celebrity grievance, Spencer.
Yeah? Who's that?
Well, little preface. I've been caught up on all my podcasts I listen to. And I happened to see on my app on the Two Bears, One Cave podcast, which I've seen clips of, but I never actually listened to. It's Tom Segura and Bert Kreisler. They have, they had Kevin Smith on there.
Yeah, I saw something. I didn't know. I haven't listened to it, but I saw something about that.
Well, unfortunately, Tom Segura was not on that episode. It was just Bert interviewing Kevin Smith.
Yeah. Did you listen to the whole episode? It's out?
Yeah, I listened to the whole episode today, and it just made me so mad.
Yeah.
Bert sucks at interviewing, and he just, the whole podcast, he just kept interrupting constantly and then just talking about himself.
Mm.
And, but they started off, Kevin Smith, they started talking about, Harvey Weinstein, right at the beginning.
Oh, that's a sore spot for him because he felt a lot of his stuff went through Miramax in the beginning, and he, when that first came out, he was really upset because...
That was, all his early movies and stuff.
Yeah, and then just in, there was anything, like how he didn't, notice anything, and so, he took it kind of hard.
They started, Kevin was like, oh, I have a Harvey Weinstein story that I've never told before.
Oh, wow.
And fucking Bert interrupted him with some, because he always goes on a tangent about just some fucking stupid shit about his life that had nothing to do with anything, and it was stupid. He's like, oh no, we'll get back to it. He kept saying that for 20 minutes. Oh, we'll get back to it. We don't forget about the Harvey Weinstein story. 2 hours later, they never get back to it. He never fucking tells because Bert just kept interrupting and just talking about his stupid machine movie and just all his dumb shit. And it's like, you have a guest on. I want to hear the guest.
Yeah.
They had Kevin Smith, who was talking about his mental breakdown thing he had over the winter, and it just went to Bert and his stupid mental health, and it's just, I don't give a fuck about Bert.
Yeah.
So I never had a problem with Bert before that. I mean, small doses. He's one of those guys where if I heard him on a podcast, it was okay, but he would get even annoying with other people. But then it's just this one, just you fucking ruined the whole conversation, dude. Never before heard story about Harvey Weinstein from someone who knew him very well, or at least as far as the movie business side goes.
Right.
And you just completely interrupted, and we never got to hear what the story was.
Yeah, wow. And like you said, it's probably the stuff he was interrupting with probably wasn't that good, and it was him just high-pitched laughing halfway through his own story, and probably didn't even finish his story, probably.
No, it didn't finish his story. I don't even remember what he's talking about. It was not important. It was really annoying, too, because he just kept, interrupting himself as well as Kevin Smith, like he always does. I just didn't give a shit what he was talking about. It's they kept touching on interesting topics, and then he would just divert the whole thing to some nonsense. It's really pissing me off. I didn't like it. And I'm not going to listen to that podcast again, even though I didn't listen to it before. Like I said, I listened to clips. But that's why it's funny is in short little clips you see on YouTube or something or Instagram. But to watch
or having Segura there to
reel them in,
and then
he actually interviews people and listens to their responses, whereas Kevin Smith Bert Kreisler just ignores them and it's kind of hard to keep interrupting Kevin Smith because he talks a lot too.
Right, that is impressive. He was able to get a word in anyways.
Yeah, and Kevin Smith, he did a good job of trying to keep the conversation on track, but it just not an episode I would recommend for anybody to listen to.
That's upsetting because Kevin Smith has been talking about that on his podcast, and I was saying, that should be something to check out. But now the way that you made it seem is probably.
You can listen to it, but it just fucking rubbed me the wrong way, man. And it'd be one thing at least what Bert was saying was funny or something, but it's just I don't know if he's always been this way, but that guy just really cares about talking about himself and nothing else. Doesn't seem like a guy I would want to hang out with ever. He's really annoying.
So you're not rushing out to the theaters to see The Machine?
No, it's not even on his Machine bit was funny. Obviously, it made him kind of a name, but the movies Mark Hamill doing coke and stuff, and I was like, what does this have to do with The Machine? But then he's the old Bert too, so it can't be the same story.
Well, it's Mark Hamill plays his dad.
Yeah.
So I think it's the repercussion of him telling the Machine story.
Oh, that makes a little more sense.
You know what I mean? And then having to get back with the dealing with the mob or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to watch that, but and that actually sent me down a weird wormhole of how shitty Brendan Schaub is.
Yeah.
Because I never really gave two thoughts about that guy. He was always wishy-washy on podcasts. He would say something, somebody disagree. If it was Joe Rogan would disagree with him, then he immediately, he just switched his stance and He just, I don't know. That guy's whole humor, too, is like, referencing movie jokes. He just, like, takes jokes from movies and regurgitates them.
I never watched any of his actual, like, stand-up or anything before.
I don't know. I mean...
Just stuff like I've seen him on podcasts and stuff.
I don't have anything I can really say bad about the guy because I don't, like you, I didn't watch his stand-up. I don't know much about him, but he doesn't really interest me either. But anyway, I went down a wormhole, though. Just apparently he's, like, real shitty to a bunch of other people, and nobody likes him, I guess.
Well, that's okay because fucking Chris D'Elia's back, and
after being a rapist or whatever,
or like getting kid porn or whatever that was.
And Brian Callen back after he had some kind of sexual allegation. So I guess you could just once you wait a year or two, you're good.
Right.
Chris D'Elia is another one. Like some of his stuff is kind of funny, but he always gave me creeper vibes.
Yeah, he has a little.
Well, he played like a fucking rapist in that show, You, and it fits so well because he just played himself in that show. So anyway, we have a non-awful episode, I guess.
We haven't recorded it yet, so we don't know.
We don't know, but it won't have to deal with sexual assault and stuff. Hopefully,
right?
Hopefully, Chris D'Elia is not going to be on our podcast anytime soon, or the others mentioned. So anyway, stick around and we'll see what's up. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, as every day, for the most part. I think you missed maybe one episode.
Yeah.
Spencer, the Denver Dookie Dropper Church.
Dookies.
I think we've done Denver before, but I couldn't think of another D name. And
you were set on the Dookie. Dopper?
Dropper, Dookie Dropper.
Dookie Doppler.
Doppler?
Yeah, like the weather.
Like the Doppler radar?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know.
I got like the brain melt today. I'm not doing good. It's been a fucking Memorial Week. It's like, I know the holiday is on next Monday's Memorial Day weekend, but does the whole week have to be fucking shitty?
Yeah.
Why is it every holiday comes around, the whole week has to be shitty for us working slaves, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Our 9-to-5 wage slaves. Like, why the fuck do we have to kill ourselves? But the people in the offices, they get all kinds of days off.
They like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They like it. Or if you work at a bank, post office. So this was suggested by you.
Yeah.
Best Neil Gaiman books of all time. This is a reading guide from our friends over at Book Reviews.
I wonder how they got that name. That couldn't whenever they come up with their idea, they're like, Book Reviews. They got to be taken, right?
Well, it's RT Book Reviews. I don't know what the RT stands for. Could be anything. Could be Rooster Teeth. That's a gaming company. Maybe that's I don't know. I'm not going to go into the intro here. I'm just going to read the list. If that's okay with you.
Yes, because I believe both us and probably a good amount of our listeners are familiar with the Gaiman.
The Gaiman, I think they know who he is. For those who don't, Neil Gaiman is a British writer who writes fantasy, mythology, comic books, anything pretty much, and he's succeeded in all of it as far as I understand.
And is great.
He is great. We've read many of his books, and I liked all the ones I've read.
And just seems like an all-around nice guy.
And his masterclass makes, I can't even describe it.
Like, even if you're not into writing, it's worth watching.
It's like if you were cutting like a hot knife through warm butter, right?
Mm-hmm.
While wearing velvet. And then also having somebody like clean your ears with a Q-tip. Like it's just like it's heavenly watching that masterclass, his voice and just everything he's talking about. Number one, which is surprisingly one you haven't read. This is the first Neil Gaiman I've read, and it was excellent. American Gods.
Do you feel like that's accurate? Like, since you said that was like the first thing you've read of his, do you feel like that's a good
intro?
Yeah, into like, even though that it's a little bit on the girthier side?
I would say so because I really liked it, though it depends on what kind of genre you prefer. Because this is more mythology adult, like urban modern mythology, but also like an adult book. Versus if you were, he has so many. He has children's books. Yeah. He has books like what was the fairy tale one we read?
Stardust.
Stardust, like that. I would say that could be a good introduction for somebody who likes fairy tales or folklore. Any, depends what you're into. Any kind of fantasy. Obviously, if you're into comic books, you know, he has a million comic series that you get started with. He's almost at the Stephen King route now, too, where it's like a lot of his shit's getting picked up for TV shows and movies and stuff.
Yeah, he's getting really popular recently.
Yeah, he's really picked up steam. So anyway, American Gods. In prison for 3 years, Shadow patiently counts down the days until he can return to Eagle Point, Indiana, in Neil Gaiman's enthralling novel American Gods. He no longer fears the future, he only wants to reunite with Laura, his deeply cherished wife, and begin a fresh chapter in their lives. However, just before Shadow's release, a tragic accident claims the lives of Laura and his best friend. With his world in shambles and nothing left to anchor him, Shadow encounters a captivating stranger on his journey home. This enigmatic man, who introduces himself as Mr. Wednesday, has an air of mischief and intrigue. Surprisingly, he knows more about Shadow than Shadow knows about himself. And then there's more. I'm not going to read this whole synopsis. It's crazy long. The book deals with, as the title suggests, American Gods. It is basically if all the gods in mythology, like all of them from everywhere, because America is a melting pot of cultures, people kind of forgot about these gods, so they lose a lot of their power.
It's also like the one of the newer, newest big countries and stuff like that, too.
Yeah. And these gods, they have to be worshipped to have, like, this strong power and be able to do all the things they can do. So a lot of them now have been relegated to just, like, almost ordinary people. But there's always something very special about them, which gives you, like, a supernatural feel. And many of these gods have come to the United States for one reason or the other. Highly recommend this, and I'm sure it's on the list, but Anansi Boys.
Yeah.
This is the sequel, also a great book.
And I think it was Starz did a 2 or 3 season show of American Gods too.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that is or how it compares to the book. I'm sure they probably kind of spin off into their own things, probably once you get into like the second, third, years. But again, that could be if you didn't feel like checking out the huge thickness of the book. You can maybe try that as well.
I don't think American Gods is that long.
Well, I have like a smaller paperback.
Yeah.
So it might just be a little bit chunkier just because like smaller pages.
I don't remember what the page count was, but I read them in a dual book edition. It had Anansi Boys too. So, and that was one of those big Barnes & Noble ones with the small print, but I can't imagine it being I don't know. It could be 400 or 500 pages maybe. Next up on the list is Coraline. Step into a world where Coraline discovers a door leading to another house eerily similar to her own, yet seemingly better. What could be more marvelous than that? However, a sinister twist awaits. Another mother and father dwell in the parallel world, lodging for Coraline to stay and become their little girl forever. Coraline I read last year. Mm-hmm. For a kid's book, really enjoyable. Obviously, as a grown adult man, I don't connect to that kind of story as one, if you were a father or a mother who were reading that, or two, who the audience is, which are children. Mm-hmm. If you were a young girl, I would imagine you'd really relate to that story and really enjoy it. But I highly recommend Coraline for adults as well.
But that just proves the show of how
versatile
it is that, or how well of a story that even though that you are not in the key demographic for it,
still enjoy it.
Yeah, it's still enjoyable for you.
I have not read this next one you have, and you keep telling me I got to read it. It's Neverwhere.
Yes, yeah. Really
Welcome to the tale of Richard Mayhew, a young London businessman with a kind heart and an ordinary life. Imagine his world turned upside down when he discovers a girl bleeding on the sidewalk, an act of kindness that plunges him into a realm beyond his wildest dreams. And this one is more about like poverty and the class system. And it's probably specifically London, but I would imagine this can go societal worldwide.
Yeah.
Because he goes into like this homeless underground essentially.
Yeah, it's like it's the London below, and that's where you get like a lot of the crazy fantasy kind of weirdness stuff. But yeah, that's kind of like the underlying theme, kind of like the forgotten people, the people you don't even notice anymore. Mm-hmm. You just walk by and it's like they're not even there.
Next up, I also have not read this one yet, Good Omens.
I've read that one, yeah.
You seem to have read all the ones I haven't read, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Like, we just really normally we try to read the same things or similar things. For some reason, on this one author, we just went complete, different routes.
Yeah, just opposites.
It's like we just did the Goku Vegeta. You take the left side, I take the right side. Yeah. I don't know why. Because we could have talked about all the books if we just read them together, but I don't know why it happened like that. Imagine your two favorite authors joining forces to create a literary masterpiece. A dream come true for many readers. This dream became a reality when the legendary Neil Gaiman collaborated with the satirical genius Terry Pratchett on Good Omens. The Good Omens is a hilarious tale about Satan's son's birth and the world's impending end. Can you picture an angel and a demon conspiring to prevent the apocalypse? That's also a TV show now, right?
Yeah.
I could tell because the book cover for this edition is the awful TV show cover. I hate when they do that.
Yeah.
Just don't.
I hate it.
So cheap.
Like it at all.
We read the first volume of this, which I think is this volume, Preludes and Nocturnums. This is The Sandman.
Yeah.
As the inaugural graphic novel collection in the highly praised Sandman series, this captivating volume compiles issues one day. Yeah, we read this for book club one time. It was really good. Introducing readers to the mesmerizing world of Dream and his siblings. The story unfolds with Roderick Burgess, a power-hungry magician seeking immortality by ensnaring death herself. However, his plan goes awry when he inadvertently captures her enigmatic brother, Dream, instead. Every one of these paragraphs has had the word I can't say this word properly. Enigmatic. Nice. Why? Why is it used so much? So, yeah, that's a good one to check out if you want to go to the graphic novel comic book route.
And just a warning too, I enjoyed it, but I have heard from some people that saying that the first volume of Sandman can be a little difficult or dense to kind of to get through, but afterwards and
it's easier.
Yeah, and it just I think the world kind of opens up more and stuff like that, and I probably too at that point in time they knew that this series has legs now.
Yeah.
They can do that they have time to do some things.
They're not constrained to just the 8 issues.
Because you'd be we don't know if we're gonna get any more in this, so let's try to.
And that is also a TV show, right?
Yeah,
because everyone was talking about they were upset either gender or race swapping or something.
Yeah.
And Neil Gaiman himself was like, I'm the author, and I said it's fine. What do you care? Well, fair enough, I would say. I don't know why people complain if the author's okay with it. Next up, I read this a couple years ago, and it was excellent. You need to read this one. I would say it's probably a young adult book, even though this is supposed to be like a kid's book. It's not a challenging read for kids, but it would be...
just the subject matter.
Not even the subject matter so much. I mean, it does open with the fucking murder of a family, but it's written in such this eloquent, such a wholesome way. I don't know. The way Neil Gaiman writes, it just doesn't ever seem offensive. Anyway, The Graveyard Book. Welcome to the intriguing world of Baud, an extraordinary boy residing in the most unusual place, a graveyard. Basically, the story is, as a baby, his family gets murdered by a man named Jack, the dagger or a knife or whatever. The baby manages to escape. You'll have to read to figure out how he does that. Where he ends up in a graveyard, and then the ghost of dead people from hundreds of years ago, from Victorian area to more modern area, just covers all histories of London or wherever this takes place. Raise the boy. It's the story of the Jungle Book. Instead of Mowgli being raised in the jungle, it's a kid raised in a graveyard. It is great.
Sounds entertaining.
Very fun. Next up, Stardust, one we actually both read. Like I said before, this is his fairy tale book. Enter the
not fancy
fairy tale. Yeah, there's a difference. If you don't know, read the book and you'll understand the difference. Fairy tales almost have their own rules separate from fantasy. They obviously intertwine. Fantasy and fairy tale are very similar often, but usually the elements, I think maybe fairy tales are based more on mythology or folklore, things like that, whereas fantasy could just be anything. Enter the enchanting world of Stardust, where ancient fields and rolling meadows of England come to life. A small hamlet on a granite jut, Wall has been a home for 600 years, taking its name from the towering stone wall nearby. Here, amidst the rustic charm, young Tristan Thorne becomes captivated by the enchanting beauty of Victoria Forrester. Then he ends up going on a very fun adventure. As someone who generally would not be a fan of fairy tales, and I've read about half of the original Grimm fairy tales. I've read The Princess Bride, which is the novel version is not really like a fairy tale, whereas the movie version teeters the line. I would say it's almost a fairy tale because obviously the main story is a fairy tale, but because they have the book has a different plot line that goes in the real world, whereas the movie he's reading a book to his kid or his grandson. So you're still steeped in realism, but this is a full-on fairy tale. That being said, I actually really, really enjoyed this, and this would be on my reread list. Whereas like American Gods, that would be way in the future for me to reread. Maybe even the Graveyard Book. I would actually read Stardust again soon because it's short.
Yeah.
It's a quick read. I watched the movie, and the movie was pretty fun. What were your thoughts on that? Did you like the Stardust?
Oh yeah, I really.
Because you're not like a fairy tale guy either.
No, not really. No, like some kind of fantasy, but fairy tales very rarely. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. Read it super quick. It fun. Even like it was one of those things that even though that you had an idea kind of where it was going, it was still enjoyable and entertaining, just because again of how well it was written and taken care of.
Yeah. You know what I'm interested to find out? I don't know if you can't find this out necessarily. I don't know if there's an actual answer. Would the Lord of the Rings be classified as fairy tale?
I don't know.
I mean, Tolkien invented his own mythology and stuff, but especially The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings itself, it's obviously high fantasy, but could you consider it a fairy tale? I don't know. We'd have to look that up. Maybe do a whole episode on what fairy tale actually entails, like what would be considered fairy tale?
Yeah.
Next up, Anansi Boys. I think I always say that wrong. Anansi Boys?
But that's probably more
Anansi Boys, that's it.
Yeah.
I always say that wrong, but I remember when he was talking about it because one of the main characters is Mr. Nancy. That makes sense because I think Anansi is a African god, if I remember correctly. In Anansi Boys, the enthralling sequel to Neil Gaiman's acclaimed American Gods, Fat Charlie Nancy's life takes a dramatic turn when he discovers the true identity of his late father, Anansi, the trickster god. Okay, see? As the story unfolds, Charlie encounters unexpected gifts left behind by his father, including a long-lost brother who teaches him to embrace life just like their enigmatic fucking dad. Enigmatic. Why? Why is it? I'm not joking. Because I'm cutting these short because we even have time constraints. Every single one of these synopses has the word enigmatic in it. Enigmatic. Say it, Spencer. I want you to say it. No, read it and say it. It's right there. Enigmatic. G. Why is there G in it?
Enigmatic.
Enigmatic. No, you're not even close. Enigmatic.
Dynamic.
No, it's not Namic.
Imagine Namic.
Stop talking about it. I won't talk about it no more until I read this next one where it pops up again. So Anansi Boys is really fun. It's a little more lighthearted than American Gods was. But it's in the same vein. It's very close. Obviously, it's a sequel, but it's not a sequel to the original story. I think the only character that I remember that's like really crosses over is Mr. Nancy.
It's probably
the trickster god.
Without reading either, it kind of almost seems like it's more like a compendium book than like an actual like sequel.
It's more like just another story set in the universe.
Because like if you didn't read American Gods, like if you didn't know and you happened to read Anansi Boys beforehand, would you be lost at all? Or would you be able?
Yeah, you would be lost a little bit. I don't remember if Mr. Wednesday's in this one or not. I think there's a lot of characters that overlap, but it's also set in a different country at first because I think he's from England or something. Like I said, it's been years since I read that book, but read both of them. Next up, The Ocean at the End of the Lane. I read this one, and this one, not the best, I'll be honest. It wasn't Neil Gaiman's best. I wouldn't put it on the list of his best books, but it was very unique, and it was really based on his life growing up, so you do get that feel of it, which was cool. Oh, here you go. Inspired by Gaiman's childhood, this surreal and haunting tale offers a glimpse into the life of a young protagonist who resembles the author himself. Enigmatic. This book was more similar to Coraline than I would say, like, just theme-wise, and even the way it's written, it's a little more adult than Coraline, but it almost kind of goes along with that weird fantasy element, but kind of steeped in realism. It's a unique book. I just personally I didn't think it was I gave it like 3 stars. I think it was readable. Next up, The Doll's House. This is another Sandman book, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, volume 2. Serving as the second compilation in the renowned Sandman series, this enthralling graphic novel brings together issues 9 to 16. We don't have to go into more Sandman stuff.
Yeah,
another story of Sandman.
Like I said, I didn't go check out the whole article, so I don't know if it's like all of his stuff.
Yeah, it seems to be.
So, like, I don't know how much.
Next
if
up,
I want to, go through like every one of his books.
Well, I'm going to skip some of these here. So the next one is Dream Country, which is the 3rd volume of Sandman.
I don't understand why you just want to put Sandman together.
I guess because they're I don't know.
Padding your list.
Yeah, that seems to be what they're doing. Next up, this is one that I have not read, but it's been on my shelf for 2 or 3 years now. Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. I don't
Yeah.
know why I said by Neil Gaiman, because some people might not know.
You just downloaded this without listening and just
Yeah.
skipped halfway through the episode.
Yeah. This is essentially, and didn't read the title.
Yeah.
This is essentially Neil Gaiman's take on Norse mythology. Like, as far as I understand, he just went through and read the known Norse myths and put his take on it. That's all.
I'd be interested to see if you can find any things like that link between that and like the American gods like stuff. Like, you know what I mean? With them both being,
Technical difficulties.
Yes, it's always on my end. I'm terrible.
I don't know why. Now it seems like your mic's worse.
Is it?
I don't know. Say some fucking words.
I don't know, man. I'm
All right,
scared
good.
to talk now.
Good. You're fixed. I don't know why it does that. We need a new mixer. Spencer just slowly through the podcast, his mic just gets softer and softer. Like, we could see the audio file of him, just like the volume just goes down on his mic and only his mic. I think mine went down a little bit, but not as bad as yours. But anyway, yeah, that'd be interesting to see, like, if you read the Norse mythology, and went back to American gods and see if any of that overlaps at all. This one I have not read. Smoke and Mirror, short fiction, and my thing closed out. It skipped to Amazon. Smoke and Mirror, short fictions, and illusions. This is a short story collection.
Let's see, I have that in my to read pile. I just
haven't got to it.
Yeah. Well, because I keep on trying to convince you that we should do that for a like American Minute kind of
I said
thing.
What did I say the name should be?
I don't know. I can't remember. It was
Gaiman Guys.
Gaiman Guys. See, I was thinking like the Gaiman like Gabble or Gallery or not Gallery, but it was like Gabble or Gabbin or I don't know.
I think you're just making up words.
Probably.
Gallivanting with Gaiman. Gallivanting with Gaiman. I kind of like that. Kind of like that. Well, see, you suggested that one because you have it.
Yeah.
But I suggested this next one, Fragile Things, Short Fictions and Wonders, because I have it.
Well, the reason because I went with Smoke and Mirrors is because like that's the first short story collection.
That would make sense for us to actually do that one first. I read a couple of the stories in Fragile Things, and it was okay from what I read. I just didn't have time to get through it yet.
And then just to go to Smoke and Mirrors real quick, like whenever I was reading reviews of it, people were saying like it was good and stuff, but it's dark. For like what like I was like people were like I was surprised with it being gaming that how dark it was. But then like also I don't feel like those people probably didn't like read like like Sandman and stuff too, because like that stuff also gets kind of dark and creepy as well.
Look, in my Michael Moorcock collection, I think it was the first collection. It had to be because that's the one I was reading. Neil Gaiman did the introduction, or one of the introductions.
Yeah.
And apparently it was a essay or something he wrote before, and they just shoehorned it in. But it was him and I talking about Michael Moorcock and stuff. But then he kind of tells his own little story about kids and different things. And he totally just threw in like a kid talking about, I pretty much like, I think sucking an old dude's wiener.
Oh.
They get molested and like, getting forced to do stuff, and the kid, like, in an innocent way, like, he was telling us, I mean, it's not so bad or something.
Yeah.
But I was just like, why am I reading about kids getting diddled and molested and all this shit in a Michael Moorcock fantasy collection?
Well, and
Neil Gaiman, what the fuck?
Well, and also just in, like, the introduction.
Yeah, it was the introduction. It was so weird. Like, if you folks get that, the edition, it's the Elrico Melnibone. It's the first volume. There's like 3 volumes, I think, that have all the books I got. I think I got them all now. But I was going through those. I read a couple of the novels, and they're really good. But the introduction, because Neil Gaiman was a huge Michael Moorcock fan, but I did not expect, how you said the stories get dark sometimes. I was not expecting that in a fantasy collection. Like, why are you talking about this? I think whoever threw that in there did not read it.
You're right. Look, it's a Gaiman.
He always mentioned Michael Moorcock. That's good enough. Anyway, next up, trigger warning, short fictions and disturbances. Do you know what that is, Spencer? Another short story collection. The day I swapped my dad for 2 goldfish. Ooh, we have to read about that one.
Yeah.
That's probably one of his kids' ones. Imagine the scenario where you desire your best friend's 2 goldfish so fervently that you're willing to exchange anything for them, even your father. What would transpire Yeah, man, I'm not going, but
must be a real piece of shit dad.
well, that goes with Neil Gaiman's masterclass. So sometimes, like what he was discussing about ask questions. So what was one of them? What if a werewolf bit a chair?
Yeah.
And the chair became a werewolf or something. Yeah. So he's like, I think that's how this one came about.
Probably, yeah.
The Wolves in the Walls. That tells the story of Lucy, who fervently... They like to reuse some words here. Fervently, 2 times in a row. It's not cool in my book.
At least it's not enigmatic.
Not everything can be fervent. Yeah, it's not enigmatic. Tells the story of Lucy, who fervently believes that wolves inhabit the walls of their home. Despite her convictions, her family remains doubtful. However, one fateful day, the wolves emerge, revealing the reality of Lucy's fears. So that looks like another children's book. The tragical comedy of... That's a weird title. Never heard of this one. The tragical comedy or comical tragedy of Mr. Punch. This is a dark, unsettling, fully painted novella that narrates the story of a young boy's loss of innocence resulting from a harrowing encounter with his past. Good Lord, that could be dark.
Yeah.
During a summer spent at his grandfather's seaside arcade, the troubled adolescent becomes innocently involved with a mysterious Punch and Judy man and a woman portraying a mermaid. However, the violent puppet show unexpectedly triggers buried memories of the boy's family, leading to feverishly intertwined lives. That sounds like something I would actually want to read. I don't know if that's a kid's book or not. It looks like one, but I don't think it is.
No.
Odd and the Frost Giants. Is this a comic? In this enchanting tale, young Odd's fortune takes a turn for the better despite a series of unfortunate events. After losing his father during a Viking expedition and suffering a debilitating injury from a fallen tree, Odd feels as though winter will never end. I wonder if that's what got him into the Norse mythology.
Maybe.
Because Odd is a Norse creature. Well, this story has Thor and Odin and Loki in it. All the Nordic gods. Oh, I guess maybe it did. The Sleeper and the Spindle. And how many books has this fucking guy got?
A lot.
In this spellbinding and ingeniously reimagined fairy tale, another fairy tale, Neil Gaiman masterfully intertwines elements of Snow White and Sleeping Beauty with Chris Riddle's captivating illustrations, bringing the story to life. I'm interested to read his other fairy tales after reading Stardust. Here are some other notable works, Spencer.
Okay.
They're at the end of that list.
All right.
Graphic novel. You ready?
Okay.
I'm going to spit them out.
All right.
But first I have to read novels.
Okay.
That's the first one.
Okay.
Novels. Other notable works by Neil Gaiman novels. Interworld Trilogy.
Oh, yeah. That's what I read this at the beginning of the year.
Good? Oh, that's the one you said you were trouble getting through.
A little bit, yeah.
Like, it wasn't bad. It just, like, it didn't really hold your attention.
Yeah, I think that was one of those ones, like, that's definitely, like, for that age.
Yeah.
Grab it would probably
That was a young adult one, or?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
All right, graphic novels. I'm going to just speed run.
It only had one?
Yeah, that was only for other novels. Graphic novels. Batman. Whatever Happened to the Caped Crusader. Good or bad?
Good.
Miracle Man. Good or bad?
Never read it.
Guardian of the Galaxy Volume 2. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Never read it.
Death. The High Cost of Living.
Probably good.
We got to say good or bad. If you,
well, I'm assuming
you didn't read it, then you can't say.
I'm assuming that it's Sandman stuff, so it's probably good.
The books. Why would they throw in all the Sandman? But I don't know. The Books of Magic. That's the one that everyone says Harry Potter ripped off.
Yeah, but yeah, I haven't read it.
Black Orchid. Orchid.
Haven't.
Is it Orchid or Orchid?
Orchid.
Why do they have H in there?
I don't know.
Why do they spell Orchid Orchid? Because I think of orchard.
Maybe.
English, you dumb. Marvel 1602.
That was really good.
Ooh, I don't know about this next one. The Eternals.
Oh, we both read that.
A rare miss
Yeah.
from the Gaiman. I remember not liking that.
Yeah, it was weird.
Was that a book club book?
Yeah.
It had to be if I read it.
Mm-hmm.
Neil Gaiman's A Study in Emerald.
I'm not even sure I know what that one is.
Didn't we do that for book club? Everything was green, right? I'll click on it after this. I feel like I read it. The Problem of Susan and Other Stories.
No.
Only the End of the World Again.
I haven't read that one.
Children's books and short stories. Fortunately, The Milk. I read that, and it's really fun if you are like 5.
Okay. So I'd probably enjoy it.
Unlike Coraline, this is like little kids.
Yeah.
You have friends with kids, I would recommend, or if you have kids yourself, obviously, to the listeners, I would recommend picking that book up for them. You could actually get it in a collection, which I got, which had Coraline. What was the other one? Oh, I think it was also the Jungle, or the Graveyard book was in that too. I think it was a 3-book deal. But fortunately, The Milk, you can have any kid under the age of 5 would really think it's funny. Let's see. What else we got? Cinnamon. Rogues. The End of the World Stories of the Apocalypse. M is for Magic. New Cthulhu, The Recent Weird. The Djinn Falls in Love and Other Stories. Pirate Stew. Odd and the Frost Giants. That's weird they put that in the notable mentions when that was also on the list. Hellbound Hearts. I wonder if that has to do with Clive Barker's Hellbound Heart.
Well, I was interested. What was the...
The last one's Tuesday.
What was the one a couple... Go at the top of that one again.
Pirate Stew.
No.
Cthulhu.
The Cthulhu one. Like, I'd be interested to see what, like, Gaiman's take on Cthulhu things are like.
Well, before we go there, I wanted to check. You know, we can go there. Let's take a look. Takes me to Amazon.
You can just buy the book.
It's 483 pages, so no. For more than 80 years, H.P. Lovecraft has inspired writers of blah, 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 flapajab.
Yeah, like I said, I just would interested to see how he would, like, handle that subject matter.
It'd be interesting because you would get a really good writer doing a Cthulhu book without ripping off or trying to write like H.P. Lovecraft. So we could potentially get Cthulhu stories that are readable.
Ooh, wow.
That we can understand.
That don't melt your brain.
I mean, that's kind of the point of them. Oh, Hellbound Hearts is the one I wanted to... That looks like a Clive Barker type of book. That is 352 pages. Clive Barker's iconic masterpiece, The Hellbound Heart, the novella, blah, blah, jibba, jibba. So where does Neil Gaiman come in here? A graphic work. Oh, maybe they did a comic book version of The Hellbound Heart. I'd be interested in picking that up. Here's some of the notable nonfiction. Don't Panic, The Official Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy Companion. Good Lord, is there anything this guy hasn't fucking written?
I didn't know about that.
Has he just... He makes me feel bad about my level of...
productivity?
Yeah. The View from the Cheap Seats, selected nonfiction. Art matters because your imagination can change the world. Final thoughts. Neil Gaiman, good. You write.
Naaman writes the words good.
He writes the word good when you read the word.
Pretty words.
So I like Neil Gaiman.
I like Neil Gaiman as well.
We might have even done something like this with Stephen King, but to do a full Stephen King, we'd be here all day. So
no, we'd have to break that into multiple episodes.
Yeah.
Too many books.
So in conclusion, I honestly, out of every book I've read on that list that I've read personally, I would recommend them all.
Yeah.
The least one would be the Ocean one, but that one was still really good. It's just, it wasn't, again, like you said with that YA one, I'm probably not the demographic.
Yeah.
That's the end of our business. I should wrap up, huh?
You probably should wrap it up.
Well, my lips are real sticky.
Well, that's because you're drinking German beer, right?
Yeah, something or other. My name is CalebJamesK.com if you want to follow my stuff.
That's your name?
Yeah,
that's a weird...
CalebJamesK.com.
I want to see a birth certificate. Like, your mom was an asshole.
That's like Crypto.com arena or like shit like that. I don't like it. So what did I say? Well, that's my website. Go there. Follow me. You can follow Spencer. He is the Dutch Dingleberry Dropper Church.
No, Denver.
The Denmark Dookie Dilator.
No.
No, that wasn't it. These are the Denver Dookie Dropper on OnlyFans.
Oh.
That's it. I kind of dilate those dookies.
I don't even know what happened. That sounds like something that would happen in that video game you were playing earlier.
Nobody needs to know about that. What's the other thing? Oh, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at DPW Podcast. This is one of our least professional episodes, I think.
No worse than last episode.
You know, last episode came out all right after I listened to it. I thought we did a horrible job, but it was kind of funny.
Yeah?
I laughed. That's all that matters. I had another topic. Not another topic. I had something else I wanted to mention, and I don't remember. Must not have been important.
Your website, my stupid names.
It wasn't a part of the outro.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, folks, we thank you for listening, and we will check you next week.